and the meeting is being recorded and streamed live on YouTube. Let's have a great meeting, everyone, and welcome.
Okay, thank you, Janelle. That will take us to announcements. Michael, do you have any announcements?
President Hubble, I do not have any announcements.
Okay, thank you. That will move us to the introduction of a senior programmer analyst, Gary Scheisthal.
Hello, I'm Lori Dunn, the District Technology Manager. I'm here today to introduce Gary Scheisthal, and he's our new Senior Programmer Analyst. Gary has a BS in Computer Science from UW-Madison and over 20 years of IT experience. He's coming to us from Loomis Enzymes, where he developed and maintained many custom applications. And he also created integrations, designed databases, and even managed a WAM-like ERP system. He's fluent in several programming languages, and he's already started learning and using a new language here at the district. We have also been appreciating the fresh eyes and new perspectives he's been bringing to the IT group and our technology. On a more personal level, in his free time, Gary enjoys cross-country skiing and mountain biking. He and his wife, Laura, have been married for 15 years, and they keep themselves busy with their 3 school-aged boys. Please help us welcome Gary Scheisthal.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, Gary. Hope you enjoy your tenure with the district. Okay, that will move us to item 2, appearances by the public. Do we have any appearances? Okay, I don't see any. Okay, so that will move us to the consent calendar where we have the minutes of the March 31st meeting, cash statement, capital projects fund, review and approval of sanitary sewer extensions, the review of bids award a contract for 2022 digester access manhole cover purchases, and transaction authority to reimburse City of Madison for district costs with West Interceptor Shorewood Relief Phase 2, and then transaction amount for career clothing services. Do we have any questions on any of the items before we move to get a motion? Brad, you have your hand up?
Yes, I just wanted to note that the minutes reflect that I was at the March 31st meeting when I actually was not. So we should just make that one small correction.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yep. Okay, let's see. Anybody else? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Hi, Tom. Commissioner Clark, I'll make that motion with Commissioner Murphy's feedback.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Clark to approve with the feedback, noting Brad present at the meeting. Do we have a second?
This is Commissioner Eskridge. I'll second.
Okay, second by Commissioner Eskridge. All those in favor of approving the consent calendar, say aye.
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 And any opposed?
I'll abstain on the minutes.
Okay, Brad will
Thanks.
abstain. Okay, so Brad's abstaining on the minutes. That takes us to topics. First quarter sewer service charges. Todd, are you going to do that?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Good morning, I'm Todd Giebert, Capital Planning Engineer for the district. We here report on the first quarter sewer service charges. Charges for the first quarter were just a little over $11.3 million. Our budget for the quarter was $11.4 million, so we're about $115,000 under budget for the first quarter. I think we're in a really good position though. Usually first quarter does come in under budget just because flows are lower in the winter months. So I think we're in a good position heading into quarter two. Before I get into the detailed breakdown of the parameters for the first quarter, I'd just like to go back and visit real fast how we ended up the year 2021. So this is the same graph that I usually show, showing the parameters, comparing actual revenues to budgeted revenues. And as you'll recall, last year we had a rather large surplus of $1.7 million. It was broken down as you see in the screen here. And it was really driven by three parameters. We had a large surplus, about $2.5 million for the BOD, CBOD, and total solids parameters. And that was offset by a large shortfall in the volume parameter, again, with the dry weather that we had last year. So that's how we entered the first quarter of this year. And in response to that, when we set the rates for 2022, we made a number of adjustments, and you see them summarized here. The loading estimates between 2021 and 2022 are shown at the top, and then the percent changes at the bottom. So the ones I want to point out in particular, we dropped the volume parameter rate about 4%, and then increased the CBOD 18.6% and the solids 15.5%. And then smaller but still sizable increases in nitrogen and phosphorus. Now looking at this quarter, I think those changes have had a real positive effect. You see that 5 of the 7 parameters here are just about right on budget, including suspended solids, which was really, really high last year. So CBOD does continue to be over budget. We are still seeing rather high loadings to the plant. And then of course, volume, the winter months have been very, very dry. Flows continue to be low. So we're still seeing a large shortfall there. These are the daily flows to the plant in the first quarter. As Alan has mentioned in his operations reports to you, flows have been at historically low levels the last, say, 6 to 12 months. Flows really have averaged below 35 million gallons a day in January and February. They're starting to slightly tick up now. In March, they were on the rise. You see we have 4 moderately sized rainfall events, and there was an inflow response to each one of those. So the flows are coming up. I imagine they'll get back to normal levels soon, but how soon, we don't know. Depends on the weather. Just a few words too about CBOD. This graph comes to you from our billing database. And what it's showing here is that we had rather low levels of BOD to the plant in 2020, right about where the pandemic hit. And then since then, though, it has steadily increased, about a 25% increase in the last couple of years. And it's still rising here in the first quarter of this year. Now, as you recall from my fourth quarter report in January, much of that increase in loading is coming from the city of Madison, and that is of some concern to them, being able to handle that with their budget. So we drilled down and tried to find out where in our collection system that is coming from. So this graph shows CBOD loadings by the district pump station service areas. And what you'll see is that the 3 at the bottom show very little variation or increase in loadings. But the one at the top, which represents our pump station 7 and 18 service areas, that is where the increase seems to be coming from. And if we drill down even further, it's coming from our station 18 service area. So just by way of getting oriented, pump station 18 is located on East Broadway Avenue, or East Broadway in the city of Monona. And it's served by our Northeast Interceptor, which extends up through the city of Madison. So it serves a large portion of the city of Madison, but also a number of villages, including Cottage Grove, Windsor, DeForest, Wanakee, and Dane. So we're not seeing it in our monitoring and our sampling at any of those villages. Although we're not there continuously, we're only there typically 1 to 3 weeks of every quarter. But it seems to be coming from this general area in the city of Madison is my best guess. And wrapping up, just a word about suspended solids. Again, that was well over budget in 2021, but we made the corrections and we're right about on budget for 2022, the first quarter. So that's looking good. So with that, what we're asking for this morning is for the commission to approve the sewer service charges for the first quarter of 2022 through resolution R10. And with that, I will take any questions the commission may have.
Thank you, Todd. We have a couple hands up, Beth and then Grant.
Todd, I just have a really very minor comment, and that is there is a $1 discrepancy between your cover letter and your first slide and your service charge summary. So
Yes.
yeah, that's all.
Very observant. No, that's a function of our billing database, just the way that they round the numbers. We've always said that the service charge summary governs the actual amount that we invoice. So that is what we would ask you to approve.
Okay, fine.
Okay, thank you, Beth. Grant.
Thank you, and thanks, Todd. Yeah, one quick question. I don't know if you could maybe pull up the slide that showed the dollar amount sort of under billing for volume. Yeah, that one.
Okay.
And this might be, I think Michael is going to give some info about the kind of future looking rate setting. But when we have that sort of, very low volume, so we're billing $360,000 less. I mean, my understanding is that we don't experience a very significant reduction in our expenses associated with that. But do you have any estimate of how? I mean, I assume we use less energy. I don't know what other costs go down, but any just like general scale of what impact that has on our operating expenses?
Not off the top of my head, but you're right. It's mainly really related to the collection system and the pumping costs that we would have, the energy expended to do that. We can look into that further if you'd like.
Okay, yeah, it's not urgent or needed for approving this,
Sure.
but yeah, it'd be great to just get a better understanding of that. Thanks.
Sure.
Okay, thanks, Grant. Anybody else have any questions for Todd? Okay, Todd, I have one. So, the CBOD is loading. So do loadings go down when the volumes increase? So if you have a low volume, loadings go up. So you get an offset. And if you have high volume, loadings go down. So you get an offset there. Do they tend to over time kind of meld out? But because I remember times when we had a lot of water and a lot of extra cost, but I don't remember if loadings went, how they move consecutive to each other.
Yeah, loadings should really stay the same regardless of volume. Because they're on a mass basis. The concentration tracks with the volume.
Yeah,
that's
concentration, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah, and concentrations, right.
Okay. Okay, so you think that issue in Madison somewhere between pump station 13 and 18?
Yeah, and it's a large area. Don't get me wrong. It would take some investigation further up there. Mm-hmm.
Yep. A lot of industry in that quarter. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the district rate and sewer service charge for the first quarter?
SPETH.
I move approval.
Okay, a motion by Commissioner Foster. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I'll second, Commissioner Meyer.
Okay,
sorry,
Ezra.
No, go ahead, Ezra.
Okay, we'll take Ezra as the second. So motion by Commissioner Foster, second by Commissioner Meyer. Any further discussion? Okay, I don't see anybody hands going up. So all those in favor of approving the first quarter sewer service charges, say aye.
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 Any opposed? None, motion carries. Okay, that will take us to item 5A, the CED report. Michael?
Thank you, President Hubble. I have two reports, items B and C on service charges and strategic planning. And my first report is a 2022 district goal is to review service charges. And just for the public, service charges are the district's primary method of recovering district costs from owner communities providing an estimated $46 million in 2022. The rate setting and billing method that we use has been unchanged for many years, and the district has identified challenges with the method, including owner community impacts and district staff safety related to monitoring and sampling of the wastewater. It is advisable to regularly review and, if necessary, improve the method using a collaborative process to engage the commission and owner communities at multiple steps to ensure any changes are appropriate and supported. At the November 24th, 2021 commission meeting last year, late last year, a long time ago, district staff led a study session proposing a detailed plan and hearing commission feedback on how that plan would be rolled out regarding this effort. And commissioners encouraged staff to proceed deliberatively and learn more about what specific challenges owner communities face, if any. Staff indicated that we would introduce the goal to owners at their March 23rd meeting that we just recently had, and report back to you on our progress. My update today reports on our progress as we promised. On March 23rd, the district presented the topic of our quarterly owner meeting, including inviting volunteers for a fiscal work group. Several community representatives at the meeting expressed appreciation that the district was reviewing its method and engaging owners and community experts, or from the community. The fiscal work group's purpose is fairly narrow at the start here, and that is to get detailed feedback on how the district's rate setting and billing method impacts communities. The district is seeking individuals with financial expertise, knowledge of community financial and billing practice, and a willingness to understand details of the district's rate setting and billing method, enough to inform the district on what challenges exist, if any. 5 communities so far are participating in this fiscal work group: the City of Madison, Wanakee Utilities, Town of Westport, City of Fitchburg, and the Village of McFarland. And we're waiting to hear from one more community to confirm one more representative. We expect the fiscal work group to meet twice to gather their input, and then staff will return to the commission with the findings of those meetings to determine, what concerns do our owner communities have, and then determine what next steps lie ahead in late August. So that is our plan so far, and I thought I would pause there to see if there are any questions from the commission.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Michael? Beth, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, I think this committee and our work group is a really great idea. So I'm really happy to hear that we're getting that input. I'm just wondering, Michael, what your role would be with that work group, or how involved the district would be with the work group.
I'll be attending all the work group meetings, and my role is technically as a sponsor for this item, but I will be. I want to be part of the group and to be able to hear directly from the owners what their concerns and needs are. And this has been very. I've continued to do this with these types of groups, the I&I group that we had, and the service charges group, where we engage communities on past processes. I'm involved in all those meetings. And so I can represent as best I can the interests of the commission. And then when we move forward, make sure we're moving forward in a manner that is acceptable to you.
Great, thanks.
Okay, anybody else? Grant?
Thank you. I guess maybe one question. I know we've had a lot of like open meetings related discussions with the city of Madison, and these kind of like advisory bodies are a little bit in the gray area. I don't know if we've gotten any counsel on this question of where the boundaries are, so that we make sure we're not having a group that's pulled together to give advisory opinions to us that isn't open to the public. So I don't know if, it looks like maybe Ken's on the line. I don't know if he's got an initial answer to that or.
I think that's a great idea, and I don't have a referee's opinion on that. I need to seek someone that has more of a legal.
Oh, sorry, Ken. I meant Paul Kent.
Oh, sorry.
Came out wrong.
No problem. I haven't looked at this issue specifically. Commissioner Foster is correct in that there is kind of this gray area. Generally speaking, kind of ad hoc groups that are, kind of not formally established, but just short-term input, are not required to, in my opinion, to be subject to open meetings law requirements. But the more, if this were to become a more formalized committee that were to be, charged with specific recommendations, that's something, that we might need to take a further look at. So I think one of the things that's probably prudent here is for me to circle back with Michael as this process unfolds, just to make sure that we're, following what we need to do here.
Thank you. That's helpful. And I guess the other just kind of broad comment then is, and I've kind of mentioned a little bit, I think at our last meeting, I do really see this as one of the most critical responsibilities that we have as a commission, and would really appreciate being kind of directly as close to those conversations as possible as well. I think there's some benefit to have these additional conversations, but I think just as you stated, Michael, the kind of the benefit of hearing from them directly, I'd like to try and make sure that the commission also gets as much kind of direct feedback and details of those conversations, because I know this is going to be really challenging for us, and I just think it's really critical that we're really hearing I think directly as much as possible, and also, it sounds like this might be limited to scope to, I think you said 2 kind of discussions, but I want to make sure that we also think about some really intentional invitations for the same folks that are interested in participating in that, to really make sure we've got space in our discussions here as we move forward, and that they really feel invited to come here as well and participate and give feedback as we're kind of deliberating as a commission. So just put those out there for consideration. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Grant. Anyone else have any comments? I had a kind of a question in that vein, is how many of the communities that'll be participating in this also participated in interceptor connection charge? Are they pretty much the same, or are they different?
My recollection, Commissioner Hubble, I can report back specifically, but I know we've when we looked at connection charges, we had really good representation from McFarland, from DeForest, from the city of Madison. At that time, some of the growth communities that are experiencing most of the connection charges were very helpful in that process. I'm sure I'm missing a few members that were, but those are the ones that that stand out who are really involved.
Yes, the reason for bringing it up is that was a similar process to what we're doing here. And as to Grant's question, or what Paul had said, could people consider this kind of like a second iteration of the same group if it had so many of the same members? You know what I mean? I don't know if that enters into Paul's thinking or not, but that's kind of one of the thoughts that came to my mind, just for him to. Okay. Anybody else? Seeing none. Let's see. You're going to do a update on the district strategy steps.
Thank you. Thank you, President Hubble. The commission study sessions this year are aimed at addressing a problem we are trying to solve, which is to establish a reoccurring and acceptable process where the commission establishes priorities for the district and then provides clear direction so that I, in turn, can incorporate into the budget for commission approval. I propose a budget to the commission every year. This recurring process not only will help us in our budgeting and setting priorities, but it also helps staff to successfully implement the work necessary to accomplish the vision. I thought the last study session that we had was very helpful for me to understand commissioners' thoughts. And actually, I was quite excited with the motivation that I heard from the commission. It is clear the commission is ready to take the district to the next level. At the meeting, there was a desire to continue with strategic discussions and not wait for the next scheduled study session, which was scheduled for May. Today, my update will describe the actual steps we will take starting on April 28th, which is your next meeting. As recommended, this session will be in person, and we will work within the commission's normal meeting time. I'm not expecting we have to expand it to a 3-hour study session meeting, but I think if we work well with the facilitated process, I'll be facilitating, we can make very good progress. And I want to share with you what I heard in my key takeaways from the last meetings. And that is that commissioners have a desire for the district to go beyond compliance and take on a broader role. And that engaging owners on cost drivers and needs is also a high priority. The commission wants to lead on these topics and is willing to work on this and using most of your agenda time. It's clear that the commission and executive team have to work together effectively to carry this out, and having clear lines of authority and communication be very important. Developing a strategy needs to be thoughtful and requires a structure, a nested hierarchy, so to speak, that was mentioned by the commission, between priority setting and executing work. And while we're developing this new strategy, it is important to build upon the good work already accomplished by the commission during 2019 strategic planning and other policies that you've established. Moving forward, I also heard that the commission wants a more concise strategy approach, with each step adding more specificity and clarity. The previous strategic plan didn't do a very good job of that. And there are 3 distinct steps that I'm proposing that we need to define, and that is the district's overall purpose, the benefits we deliver to owners, and key performance areas for getting work done effectively. And not knowing exactly how much discussion each step will take, I do expect that we'll have all of these 3 steps completed by May 26th. And then we'll be done with the process. So let me kind of lay out the process as I'm mapping it out here. On April 20th, 28th, the commission will put the district's purpose into words. And the purpose statement defines why we exist and the unique value the district provides. While the district's purpose has its basis in the statutes, it will be helpful for the commission to put that purpose into words, to speak clearly to communities and employees. A focused and accurate purpose statement will drive our priorities and our budget decisions. We have some options on how to pursue this. Staff have some good insights from the commissioners from the last meeting for us to develop a draft to give to the commission, to give to you, to react to. You may recall in the first exercise at the last meeting, each commission member reviewed our statutory purpose and shared what most resonated. You then rated the district's performance and outlined how the district can improve. Your answers gave staff a good sense of your individual values, where you see the district heading. Another option, of course, is we can run a process for all of you to tackle this exercise together, and more of a blank sheet of paper approach and facilitate it and get there. Both processes will work. That's really up to you. After that is accomplished, we have to look at the next step. A good purpose statement is necessary, but it's not enough. And the next step will be to focus on owner expectations. These add specifics to the purpose statement, and they are the particular benefits the district provides that offers the highest value to our owner communities. Those areas will need to be defined by the commission. And then finally, the third step is we will focus on translating the priorities through the purpose and benefits into high performance work. And staff has a strong sense of what necessary performance areas are since we face them daily, but we want, and it is critical to have alignment and support from the commission as we move forward with that. Combination of these steps will provide the focus and execution that was missing from past strategic plans. It will provide clear direction to me as I prepare the proposed annual budget for your consideration, and will help me manage staff resources effectively. Staying on this schedule will allow us to incorporate new priorities into the 2023 budget. I value your input on this suggested approach, President Hubble.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Does anybody have any comments? No, it's not a item for for action or anything or discussion, but it is listed on the agenda. So if we have any comments or suggestions, Grant?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks for hearing the feedback, sort of processing, and what I'm excited to kind of get into that work at our next meeting. I felt for a while that that's probably the right space for us to spend a lot of our energy and attention as a commission, kind of in that space. And the more we do it, I think the more able we'll all be to be able to understand the different roles, et cetera. So I just appreciate hearing the feedback and translating that into a proposal for how we move forward with this. And I'm looking forward to digging in. Thanks.
Okay, Sarah, you have your hand up.
Yeah, Michael, thanks for the update. I agree with Grant. To answer, you kind of posed a question in there in terms of process about coming to us kind of blank slate or with something to respond to. And my perspective on that is it's helpful to have something to respond to. Staff does this all day, every day. We concentrate on this periodically, but to have some sort of even just straw man approach that we could throw darts at or whatever, I think would put us in a better position to move forward. So that's my feedback on that specific ask.
Okay, thanks. Any other things, Sarah? No? Okay, Ken, you're up.
Yeah, Tom, I would echo Grant and Sarah's feedback. Some clarity in the process would help maximize our time that we have to spend on this. That's just my opinion of the last discussion we had on this topic.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Anybody else? Okay, so I think what I'm hearing is that have something for us to be able to respond to and clarity. And Michael, maybe it's a good idea to kind of lay out a flow chart or whatever. We discussed that a little bit privately. So I think I got to get back to the agenda here. Okay, I don't see anybody else that has any. Oh, Grant, you have your hand up again. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with what Sarah suggested. Was maybe as some specifics towards that is, you know, I know maybe pulling out kind of the relevant sort of purpose statement from the existing kind of strategic plan, and I mean any other kind of equivalent, you know, type statements, or even, you know, looking at some of what's in our global policy kind of stuff. I think getting a, you know, not an overwhelming, but sort of a little bit of a here's what the commission has, you know, stated historically, especially for some of the newer members, I think would be really helpful to see where there's consistency and maybe where there's some nuance, and that I think would be really helpful to land on, you know, what we all agree with going forward.
Okay, thank you. And in that regard, probably the statute requirement that was actually done, provided pretty clearly by staff at that last meeting, it would be very helpful, the efficiency and economy and sewer service. Ezra, you got your hand up?
Just quick jumping on the bandwagon in support of the notion of some ideas to start. And you know, I think that last time, maybe I'm remembering wrong, but I thought what we dwelled on most last time was the judge's opinion that kind of kicked off the creation of the district, and not actually the statutes. If I'm wrong, my apologies. But to my mind, there's two sources of some good starter material. One is the judge's documentation, which we looked at. Two is the statute. Three is what Grant said, the stuff we've already documented in past plans. And we also did that little exercise last time where we individually all peppered out some ideas. I think if you synthesize, you staff, Michael, you know, synthesize some of those things to have a starting point on purpose, we can probably dispatch with purpose pretty quickly and move on to the you know, the grittier stuff that comes in the second and third steps. So that sounds great. Looking forward to it. And I think this process going to be good. And I like the timeline and the depth of sort of commission engagement in it. It's maybe a little bit of a shift from what we had been thinking. Feels good. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ezra. Anyone else? Okay, I don't see any more hands up. Brad or Beth, no comments. So we'll move on to the regulatory and legal report. Just before we get to that, Michael, you understand? Have any questions on any of that you want clarity on? Or
I think that's good, and maybe a little bit of a process change is I've had discussions with President Hovell, and given we're moving into the strategic realm that President Hovell and Vice President Meyer and I are going to meet every other week to do agenda planning, since the commission is moving into more of a strategic space, which is a really good place. And Tom and Ezra can really help me in shaping our agendas so the commission can be most effective. So I just wanted to let you know of this informal meeting the three of us will be having between meetings.
Yep. Okay, thank you, Michael. Paul, regulatory and legal.
Yes, good morning. The legislature is now adjourned. So for better or for worse, they will not reconvene in a formal session until next spring. So while committee action and so forth can continue during this time, there will not be any new legislative efforts. Kind of the biggest developments recently have been on the PFAS front there and rule approval process. The regulatory update notes that there are a couple of things that are in the midst of legislative review, one of them being the biocriteria and the other being the PFAS rule that the Natural Resources did approve. It's not entirely clear yet whether one or more legislative committees will act and do anything on that, but we will continue to monitor that. So unless anybody else had any questions, things are starting to quiet down a bit.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Anybody have any questions? I don't see any hands. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Let's see. Well, that takes us to future meeting schedule, which is in the packet. So what I have is that we'll be doing the April 28th meeting in person at the district, and that would be at the standard maintenance building facility. Then the 5/12 meeting will be virtual, and then the 5/26 meeting, I suspect we're doing strategic planning in that, and that's also in person, correct? So
yes,
we'll have in-person meetings in the last meeting of April and the last meeting of May, and then the one in between will be virtual. Ezra, you have your hand up?
Yeah, thanks, Tom. And forgive me, everyone, for not having a camera this morning. I just wanted to ask, what does it mean for folks who've been connecting in by Zoom when we meet in person? We're not doing a hybrid where we're also live streaming and all that other stuff, correct? It'll be an in-person only meeting. Is that right?
That is correct, Commissioner Meyer. For in the short term, I know we are still evaluating options. If we wanted to do live video meetings, we have reached out to the city of Fitchburg, and they are willing to offer their space where we could have live meetings, study session meetings. One thing, and this is more of a note with the study session format, is it's not you've been part of it, so you're not around the horseshoe that much. You're breaking into small areas and having discussions, and it's hard to capture that on video. So I think we're still, at least for those types of study sessions, we don't have a good solution for that yet. But if the commission wanted to have continue to live even that type of meeting or stream it live, we do have options we could pursue.
Thanks, Michael. I'm not raising a concern at the moment, just being clear for those who are watching today and who might have been, grown accustomed to the kind of access that they can have, that we could just call out this reality that is going to change when we have the occasional meeting that's in person, and maybe they'll become less occasional. But I'm glad we're looking into those options, and I'm not too worried about this next one. But I think let's keep considering what we can do. It seems like we've reached a level of access that's unprecedented before this pandemic, and there's some good things to that. Let's think about what we can do to continue that going forward, if it's in the cards, if it's reasonable, et cetera. Thank you.
Okay, Grant, you have your hand up?
Yeah, thank you. I would support what Ezra is suggesting, and I don't have any concerns about the next meeting, but I think in general would love to maintain being able to kind of broadcast our meetings for folks if and when we do have them in person. I just wanted to ask about the current masking policy for MSD and how that will work for our meetings. I feel like we've talked about it somewhat recently, but it seems like it's very in flux all over the place right now, and found myself in a lot of kind of awkward and uncomfortable situations where a lot of people are not sure what the expectations are, people not wanting to offend each other, but maybe also feeling like personally they don't feel strongly about wearing masks. So could we just be clear about kind of what the expectations are for this meeting? I mean, both for commissioners as well as I guess members of the public that would choose to attend.
Will do. We'll have those instructions very clear.
Okay, Ken?
Hi, Tom. I just had a future agenda topic ask, which would be for an update at some point throughout the year on our IT security strategy or plan for protection. I think we've discussed this a couple years ago. It would help me as a commissioner just to have a update on that at some point.
Yeah, good suggestion. We had those training videos a while back. And so it'd be good to know how that's going with the district level. Yeah, good suggestion, Ken. So Michael, make note of that. Okay, let's see. Do we have anybody else and any comments? So the next meeting will be in person. We have virtual, then the following meeting will be in person. In the meantime, staff will be looking at how we can integrate video meetings, which may change our location, I think, right? It sounds like it might be at Fitchburg. Okay, so that moves us to other business. Do we have any other business? And okay, so I don't see Tom, so somebody else is gonna have to make the motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Tom, Commissioner Clark.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Clark, second by
Murphy.
Second by Commissioner Murphy to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? None?
See y'all.
Okay, motion carries, and then we'll see you, everybody, in 2 weeks.
Aye.
The-
In person.
See you soon.
Bye.
Aye.
Bye.